Yeah, we've got a lot to show again, so I'll get right into it. Um, as always, I want to start with thanking all of our contributors. We had, I think I counted 10 contributors this time, which is awesome. So, contributions from Bywater Solutions, PTFS Europe, and Main Library Alliance. So, I think it's Mike's first commit. So, thanks everyone for your contributions. We obviously couldn't build it without y'all. So, let's start up top. Jordan's going to talk about Aspen Lita again, as always. So diving down, we'll go into some accessibility updates because obviously, as you've heard the last few releases, we've had a big focus on accessibility and those tweaks. One of the things we found was the Libby lending periods. The way those were set up previously, they were kind of some buttons and they were not very accessible. So those got changed to select elements so that they're easier to use. So you can still pick 137, 14, 21, um, et cetera, depending on the element. So that's cool. Everything we can do to make it a little more usable. The next thing that we worked on was for support. So um, we added for people that are submitting tickets to Bywater using Aspen, and we highly encourage everybody that does this. We wanted to kind of help with the process, make sure that we were getting the information that we need to kind of help streamline some of the back and forth, make sure that we're getting all of the information we need right away at the first time. So we've added some additional fields and provided additional notes where we could too. So for like the subject, we're saying, hey, make sure that you please put in descriptive keywords. Um, Putting in there is a problem is not very helpful to us as we're looking at a list of things. So the more kind of specific you are on that, the better. Helps us searching, helps us categorizing, that kind of thing. The reason you're submitting the ticket, so something's not working as expected, um, just a general question like a support question, a request for a new feature, or something else. So again, helping us categorize those so that we can make sure that we're getting it to the right person as quickly as possible. Um, which product? So discovery, Lita, or both. So again, get us to the right people. The description, this is super important. So the more information you can give us, the better. Um, it just helps us to replicate the issue more quickly. We know more about how to do it, what to fix it. Um, Saves us some research time, which is super helpful as we get tickets from everybody. So the more information you can do there, the better. For Lita and stuff, especially like device information is super important for us to help to replicate that. We've got a nice big collection. Kate's got a ton of, or Miranda's got a ton of phones on her desk that she uses to replicate things, and we've got different. Yeah, Miranda's showing off some of her phones there. So whatever we can do to help replicate those are great. But there's a lot of things in Lita that unfortunately just show up um, on one device or another. Um, if you are sending login credentials, we don't want those to just go in clear text. Essentially, this form just sends an email. Um, so we have a tool called SharePass that will allow you to send credentials so that we can get those credentials and store them securely. We don't want to compromise any information, that kind of thing. Same thing if you're setting up a new integration and you need to share like client keys and client secrets, using SharePass is a great way to do that. And then especially for things like grouping issues or format issues, having example records is super important for us to be able to quickly jump in and do that. If you say, hey, I'm having a problem with a DVD or something, it can be really hard for us to find that because most of the time it's not a general, everything is having a problem. It's a, these particular records are, and really being able to dive into um, what that is helpful. Same thing, this doesn't have to just be records. If it is something where like you're having trouble with a particular screen, that's really useful to get that URL as well. Also by popular demand, we have the ability to do attachments. So if you can do a screenshot, that's fabulous. A lot of times um, we'll see something in a screenshot that doesn't seem important to anybody else. And as developers, we'll be like, oh, that is exactly the problem. So if you can add attachments, that's great. If you are doing attachments, oftentimes it's helpful to get the URL in the screenshot because a lot of times that will tell us something specific too, or put the URL of the screenshot in the example record. So fill that all out, submit the ticket. That's going to be super helpful for us to help us support you better. Next, we added the ability to, so when you click force reindex, what was happening previously was we were indexing with the information that Aspen had. It was not going back out to the ILS in order to fetch updated data. Force reindex will now go and fetch that data everywhere that we can. So those places are everybody but Symfony, I think, because Symfony doesn't allow us to go fetch a MARC record. That's kind of what everybody thought that it would do, and it didn't. So we updated it so that it would do that. So a nice way if you're having particular issue with one or two records and just want to kind of see what happens, you can do that force reindex and that will update everything. Next, our friends at PTFS Europe. So I apologize, I didn't bring this up. I'm going to talk about two things here. So we have the ability to, with saved searches, GDPR is a privacy initiative, I guess, in Europe. And part of that is limiting the amount of user data that you're storing and making sure that you know that. We have both saved searches and recent searches. The recent searches, the intention has always been those just go away after a little while. Those were going away after 2 days. And then with the GDPR compliance, we just updated so that those will go away in 1 day. We also updated collection spotlights. So, or PTFS has updated collection spotlights to make multiple spotlights with multiple tabs work better. So if we say create a spotlight, we're gonna create a spotlight that's cats. Hopefully Google Analytics isn't gonna slow us down today. Okay, then we're gonna create another one called dogs. We'll add that as well. So let's add that to our cats. We're gonna add dogs. We're gonna add that as another tab. We'll create that spotlight. Here we've got 2 tabs. What they did was go through and make sure that with every combination of the style, so no matter if you're using horizontal carousels, vertical, single titles, text only lists, etc., that those would all display properly no matter if you were doing a tab display or the drop-down list. So let's take a quick look at that. So here we've got cats and dogs, and they go back and forth. So nice functionality there. We've got a lot of people using collection spotlights with multiple tabs, so that's really cool. Events. We made a quick update to where if you were doing multi-select things, previously that just wasn't working. So now we can say, hey, we can do adults and teens. So cool stuff there. Um, and that works. That worked for basically anything that wasn't a grouped work search or a catalog search was having problems. So this works now for events and website searches and archives and all of that kind of stuff. We got some feedback after the last release about the grouping. And as we split out comics and updated some of the formats and made all of that more consistent, there was a little confusion about what exactly was going on. And as we're doing more, it's always hard to make it completely understandable. So we're trying to, with this, make it even more, even easier to understand and also give you more control. So what we have here, first thing we're going to do is we're going to show the grouping category as you change things. So if I've got a 14-day thing and I say, yep, nope, this isn't really books, these are really movies, that grouping category is going to update right away. So you know, is this a movie? Is this a book? Is this music, other, that kind of thing. So um, for graphic novels, that is actually determined largely based off the format. So if we said, hey, graphic novels is uh, really our graphic novels in our collection are really manga. That's still going to be comic, but if we called it books, then it would go back to book. So just a way to help you kind of understand where you're putting everything. I'm going to switch that back to graphic novel. The other thing we're doing is, and this will depend on what ILS you have. So we do format determination a little bit differently depending on each ILS. We now have the ability to see and control what format is used for each particular field that we're checking. So this is a Koha instance, so it's showing all of the things we can do for Koha. So let's say that we have a Blu-ray, and our Blu-ray is an item type and a shelving location, but because of the way the library's evolved, the Blu-ray is really Blu-rays and DVDs. So we really don't want to use the shelving location to determine format. So what we can do is say, hey, this is not a shelving location um, or a sublocation or a collection. Only look at it for the item type um, or maybe the item format. So each of these are using the fields defined in the item information. So we can say sublocation is subfield 8, collection is subfield 8, shelving location is subfield shelving location. Shelving location is subfield C. Item type is subfield Y. Um, in this case, format is also subfield Y. So we can get a lot of control over what we do. So if you've got something that's really ambiguous, previously what we were doing was telling you to blank those out. You now don't have to blank out the format. You can just say, hey, Blu-rays, don't use that for my shelving location. It doesn't apply. It's not a good format determiner. So these apply also left to right. So you'll get different columns. So it will say, if you're doing like Sierra has material type, which is actually the first thing determined. So you'll get a material type column. So left to right, as soon as it finds one, basically it stops. So if you get something determined based off shelving location, it's not looking at sublocation, collection, item type, etc. It's done, it's moving on. So hopefully this helps make how the format determination works a little easier to understand. It's a really complicated thing, so we do want to make sure that we're explaining it as well as we can. To help with that, we have also added within the grouped work display the ability to show diagnostics. So the first time you click this, it's going to say, hey, the next time this is indexed, we're going to fill out the diagnostics. After this is indexed once, we're going to get information about this. We imagine this diagnostic information is going to expand as we find new things that we want to help show. So in this case, we're saying, hey, for this record, we're finding that it is an audiobook based off the item type. So here we can go back and say, okay, we got an audiobook. So the audiobook determined the the format. Um, if for some reason we're like, no, we don't want that to be audiobook based off item type, we could uncheck that item type checkbox. So we get a bunch of books and that kind of thing. So hopefully that will also help. It does e-content as well, so you can see how things are being determined for like Palace Project, Hoopla, all of those things. So there's one example. Here's another one for um, graphic novel. So we've got the diagnostics for that. We've got graphic novels based off sublocations. If that's not an accurate thing for you based off how you shelve, you would uncheck graphic novels and we wouldn't see that. Here's another one for, in this case, this is a PlayStation. So these diagnostics are showing, this is a bib level determination. And in that, what we're doing is we're finding all of them and then filtering them. So we're finding that it could be a Blu-ray, PlayStation, or software. Then we go through and if we reference the help center, we filter out software and Blu-ray, so it's just PlayStation. Please, during the testing period, over the course of the next couple of weeks, please let us know what additional information would be helpful here, especially related to formats. We want to make it really easy for you to understand what all's going on with that format determination. All right. I'm not going to show it, but one of the other things we fixed, we've still been having a few issues with grouping for things like Wings of Fire. We're hoping that Miranda can do something besides grouping Wings of Fire records now. So just gonna need a new job title. But what we found was that was actually related to the author authorities. So if something was being manually grouped with author authorities, Aspen was just getting really confused. We've got that all sorted out now. So if you've got author authorities and manual grouping, Aspen's going to sort that all out and be cool with what you're doing. So it's going to understand your intent better. Next, we made a bunch of updates to sideloads. This is a really cool collection that Gail Borden has. So they've got some media banks. So they're kind of like, I haven't seen them, but they're essentially like vending machines for movies, kind of like the Redbox. So the idea is that these are DVDs and Blu-rays that are in there. We don't actually know the availability. There's no way to get the availability. So these are all side-loaded. And we wanted to side-load them to make it easy for their workflow and make everything display properly within Aspen. So here we can see that they're DVDs and Blu-rays. There's buttons to click to search. They've got two of them. So there's one in the main branch and one in the Rackout branch. Clicking on those takes you to their interface in order to be able to search those. So there you have to log in again with your library name and card number. You couldn't pass through the logins. The way that's working though is we now have some side loads and we've got a couple of new features for side loads. So first, we're able to use multiple URLs. So if you've got more than one URL on a side load record, it's going to display buttons for each of those. So in this case, we've got so here, if we look at the MARC record, we have 2856 links with different text. So we're able to use both of those. If you click the use link text for button label, it's using that text out of the 856 link. So nice there. The other thing we had to do is to say, hey, these aren't really e-content. Side loads previously have all been e-content. In this case, we just want to use the regular bib format. So we added a new option that says convert format to e-content. This defaults on for everything because normally we're loading e-content with our side loads. But now we can use it to do physical materials and it will just preserve whatever format is in the bib record. So cool functionality there, cool collection. Also for Gale Borden. Um, and this will work for Sierra libraries. So we've added the ability to add an under consideration option. So what they've got is they've got a patron-driven acquisition collection. These are added to their collection as order records, but they haven't been purchased yet. If somebody places a hold on it, they will buy it. So they want to kind of know that it is going to be purchased before they buy it, which is cool. What we are doing is we are looking, so this is again for Sierra only because of how the Sierra order records work. We have the ability to say here is a record status to treat as under consideration. So in this case, we're including both O and 1. I think O translates to on order and 1 translates to on hold in Sierra. And we're saying 1 is under consideration. So when that happens, we'll get added in the last. So the status will show as under consideration, added in the last, displays as under consideration. There is under consideration will sort to the end. So in terms of what's been purchased, if you sort by date, it will also search anything that's under consideration to the end. So that's really cool. Next thing I wanted to look at is we have added the ability to look and see what user agents. So user agents are something that computers send to the server when they make a request. So they say, hey, I am the Aspen Lita simulator for iOS 17.2, or I am the Aspen Lita simulator for iOS 17.4, which gives us the ability just to kind of understand statistically what's going on for those. We also have the ability, so in the stats we have that say like how much traffic are we getting from bots and that kind of thing. We have the ability to say these are bots as well. So just see if I can find one. So here is Expanse, whatever that is saying we are a crawler. I'm going to go in and edit this and say you are a bot. Then it will statistically, from the point I check that forward, count as a bot. So if you're looking for statistics there, that will tell us that they are a bot. We could do that for other ones. We are working on a way to kind of share these. So, and you can also batch update them. So we could say, hey, those two, oh, I don't know what Sensi Inspect is. Googlebot is obviously a bot. So we could say that is a bot, update that one. So that's cool. For statistics purposes, we also have under the systems report a usage by user agent. This is similar to the usage by IP address. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, we could also block something. So if you see something that's, we do a lot of blocking of bots internally. So this is probably something that we'll be doing mostly at Bywater, but we have the ability to do it for anybody. So if you said, hey, I don't want whoever repo lookout bot is to be able to access the site, we could say this is bot and also block access. So then they would never show up again. We also have usage by user agent. This will mean more as we go through time, but we can kind of say, hey, how many requests have we had this month? Unknown is when the user doesn't provide a user agent. It's not good practice, but it happens. I would not recommend marking them as a bot or blocking them because that would potentially block a lot of things that we might want. Then we can kind of see like, oh, okay, we get a lot of views from Chrome. We get a lot of, or Chrome or Safari. This is Firefox. We've got our Lita simulators that we're doing a lot with, which makes sense because this is our testing server. So you can kind of get a feel for who's using it and that kind of thing. So nice ways to get more statistics, also nice ways for us at Bywater to say, is there somebody that's doing things that they shouldn't do on the server? So good ways for us to kind of track those internally. Okay, last but not least, and I know this is not an instant by any means, but we got lots to show this time. We've got a new accessibility view for browse categories. So traditional browse category view, we've got everything up top. You all know and love this. As we've had more people do more accessibility tests, they've said, yeah, there's some things in here that aren't super accessible. They're accessible, but not necessarily efficient. So if you're using a keyboard, there can be a lot of tabbing, and we wanted to kind of minimize this. And I know Jordan talked about this last month as well. So what we added was down here in the browse categories section of the themes, we added the ability to say, use the accessible layout. So in this case, I applied this to a new theme that is an option. I'm going to update my preferences from clean demo to improved accessibility. Update that. And then when I refresh, we get our new layout. So here, this is more of kind of the Netflixy style, smart TV style, where you get the category, you get the subcategories, you get a few titles that you can scroll between. So you can kind of look through those. So you get our Mother's Day Mystery and Murder that we can scroll through. New books recommended for you, are Shrimply the Best, of course. So a little bit of a different experience for patrons. We do and lists and all that kind of good stuff. So if you want to use this, we suggest minimizing the number of browse categories that you have, because we have the potential to load quite a few browse categories. If you've got 20 different browse categories we're loading, that's 20 times 5 covers that we're loading. That can be a pretty big drain on the server. We're going to kind of watch this to see what load does to servers and see how many people are interested, so that we can make sure that the performance is good. But definitely over the next couple of weeks during the testing period, we'd love you to try this out on your test servers, see if the performance is good for you, test it on mobile phones and that kind of thing. So kind of really see how that works. So a really cool new option. With that, I'm going to check chat real quick because I haven't been keeping up with it. And yes, so clicking the diagnostics button does apply to the next index run. Yeah, so it's just the next one. So every time it indexes, it would clear out the old information, put it back. That information is deleted after 24 hours as well. And yeah, so please, all the feedback on everything. It is doing lazy loading, so it's only loading this page. Sorry, as I'm reading. So it's not loading everything off screen for every one of these. It is only loading the ones that are visible as they come in. So we're improving performance there, but it's still, if you have lots and lots of browse categories, and it's the main categories, the subcategories aren't bad. So just those main categories, if you have lots of them, it could be slow. And yeah, like as Jordan says, we're looking at the design some. So it's a different control for us that we're playing with some of the styling on. So feedback welcome, of course. Last thing I want to show before I handed it over to Jordan is in our in the admin interface for Aspen Lita for branded application settings, we have a new ability to use the user home location when we're logging in, and I will pass it over to Jordan to explain what that means.
Thank you so much, Mark. So This was something that one of you brought to our attention. It does not actually make any sense. So this is for, I should say, this is for library branded Lida only. If you're in the shared Lida, you have to look up your library. We have no way of knowing what library you're from. So we either have that geolocation or you can look it up by name. If you are in library branded Lida, this is especially applicable to consortia. We, based on your barcode, we know what your home location is. So there's no reason actually to ask you what your home location is. So we've just eliminated that step in the login process. So you see here on the screen that we have Swan Beta. I'm going to open that up. And no need to look up the library right here. I automatically have, I can put in my library card number. It's kind of tricky to get it to paste on the simulator. There we go. Put in my PIN, logging in. And then we're automatically in here. You can see if I click on my account, it automatically knows I'm at the Oak Park Library, one of the 100 Swan libraries. If I click into more, Oak Park Public Library. So it loads all of that information. Great for users. All it does is just eliminate that step of looking it up. And again, this is for library branded Lida only. We'd love to apply it to the other one. We just can't because we actually have to know which Aspen to connect to. So a great enhancement there. We did fix a number of other bugs, small bugs for Lida. I'm going to be brief, just looking at the time. The bigger small bug was with Libby. When you had a title on hold, you could place the hold through Libby or through Lida, all of that was fine. But when the title came available, we were having trouble checking it out from the holds page. Of course, you could still check it out in Libby, but we want all of that action to be available from Lida as well. So that's fixed, as well as a couple of other bugs, especially making sure that all content throughout the app, no matter what the PDF, no matter what, was opening properly from Lida. The other thing that we're changing is notifying users or enforcing minimum operating system versions. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I'm going to put a little bit of a pin in that for our conversation later, but we'll talk about that soon. And I'm going to hand it over to Miranda to talk about testing.
Yeah, this should be really quick. So let me make sure I drop the agenda link back in there for you because I've added some notes there related to what I'm going to ask. So really quick, the first sort of bullet point for me is we do have a testing channel on the Aspen Discovery Slack. We're probably like this release or maybe next release going to experiment with like giving you guys more specific testing challenges in that channel just to give you a little bit more direction of like what we need you to look at any given time. It'll help you help us test basically. So I would recommend joining that channel if you are a tester or interested in testing, just as a first shout out. And yeah, I'll just reiterate some of the things Mark already called out that we're looking for people to test, which would be, sorry, turn on that new browse category layout and let us know how it works in terms of performance. If you have any feedback related to the design or anything, any thoughts on that layout, just let us know, put it in a ticket, and um, we will be happy to read that. Check on your format map. Everything should work as expected. Like the changes shouldn't change anything about your formats, but like still check on your formats, play with your new format map options if you'd like, and let us know how that's working for you. Test that force reindexing is actually extracting new data from your ILS. If you have an applicable one, which would be, I put Carl X, Evergreen, Koha, Polaris, and Sierra. I think I forgot to put Evolve there, so I can add that to the notes later. And then yes, branded Lida, if you have beta apps, test that location selection thing. I've tested on 2, but yeah, as many people as possible, we can have testing that would be helpful. And I think I'm giving it back to Jordan.
Yeah, thanks, Miranda. I do want to address a few of the comments in chat. Sarah asks if we don't have branded Lida, is it pulling the library from the barcode prefix? I believe it's pulling from the home library of the patron. Is that right, Kirsten? She's
Yes.
nodding. Okay, awesome. And then there was one more. Wishing customers could use the app without logging in. Um, we've had this request a few times. It would actually require a massive re-architecture of Lida, which is why we haven't done it. I do really like that idea, but it would be rewriting like large portions of the app. So just kind of giving a little explanation there.